All right, well, I'm going to get started then. Welcome everybody tonight. Tina, hey, thanks for checking in with us. Tina's new. She's just figuring out what we're doing here. So that's awesome. So last week I had you guys painting on paper. And so like I've got some of my pieces here. Actually quite a few pieces, but they are a little bit curly, but that's okay. Cause I mean, they're just paper, right? And we're just playing anyway. So, tonight, what I wanted to do was go over about adding something else to your papers to start sort of like a little bit of a mixed media sort of feel, and adding different elements to your pieces. I'm going to explain a few of the things that I do here, some of my organization stuff, and whatever we need. So I think I told you guys to get some Mod Podge, so you can have Mod Podge, or you can have I use the gloss gel because I'm a professional painter or whatever. So you can use both. And you know, when you're working on cheap paper and stuff like that, you know, the Mod Podge is probably just fine, right? But whatever you're comfortable with. And I said to get a selection of interesting things to put on your papers. So things like, you know, like I have some really beautiful papers here. Like this is a kind of almost like a cloth paper. It has a bit of gold in it. I have lots of these. This is a paper towel from one of my art classes. I have tons of these. This is something I'd love to do with you guys at one point, and it's dyeing tissue paper, and it's so much fun, but it takes forever because it has to dry. But you know, that might be something that we could do one night, and then it might be a short session, or we just do a ton of tissue paper, but it's a bunch at the end. Or a bunch at the end. Anyway, I even grabbed one of my tea bags. So yeah, see? They're just nice and brown. The other thing that I'm doing, because it's January and I do this every year, is I work on my stamp collection because I'm a stamp collector. And so I never put nice stamps in my collages, but I put all the damaged ones that I can't put in my stamp collection. They go in my, so anyway, I went up to the floor because I just sort of tossed them on the floor. So I have a whole bunch of stamps here. I'm working on my American stamps right now. So anyway, I have some stamps I can put in there. I even have some handmade paper that I made a long time ago. And look, there's a stamp in it. That's weird. And just little bits of paper and stuff like that. So I'll show you some of that stuff as we're going. Oh, and the other thing that I did say is like book pages. So if you have an old book that's falling apart or something like that, you can use books to, they're just kind of fun because you can see some of the paper and or see some of the words. I know that in a lot of like Pinterest things, people do actually artwork where they go through and they block out a lot of the words. And then what you have is you make a poem out of the page. So I don't know about this one, but anyway, so this is a book that was falling apart. So anyway, I think we should get started and start painting. I still have my paint and my paintbrushes here. So I have the two pieces that I was working on last week, and I think we're just going to switch it so you can see my hands. I'm going to explain what's going on my tabletop here, okay? Last week I didn't have my palette, so I grabbed sort of a palette. Oh, can they see it yet?
Well, you're gonna just talk for another moment, and I'm gonna switch stuff around.
Bill's doing his techie stuff that he does, and I guess I'm just going to ramble on about stuff. So one of the processes that I have, yeah, that's the right way. When I teach my classes and stuff like that, when I'm working with kids, is I have these boards, and this is Coroplast. It's just like that plastic corrugated cardboard. Mm-hmm. They're really handy. And then I don't do this to my table. And you can see it's been used for years and years because every student in my class would get one, and then they could work on, and you know, you can put your paint on it if you need a palette, or you know, it saves the table a little bit. So I'm not going to work on this because I think it's going to be hard for you to see what I'm doing because it's so beautiful. It might end up being a piece of art one day. Who knows? Anyway, I will work on this side because it's a little bit easier to see. So we've got a couple of compositions here that we can start with. And basically when I'm applying things, I like to use a pretty stiff brush. This is a pretty old brush of mine. And you can see it's pretty well used and lovely, but I like it because then I can really push down and I can flatten things. So if I'm taking, say, a piece of this tissue, you can cut it with scissors or you can tear it. And tearing can be really, really beautiful. And you can just make some wonderful shapes by just tearing tissue paper or, oh, that's a little sticky, whatever. You can tear it and make these interesting shapes. And then it's just sort of placing it on your page and finding interesting places to put it. And, you know, I'm just going to sort of move things around here. You know, you can do your book pages the same way, you know, just tear them. And some pages tear nicely, some don't. Paper actually has sort of like a, what do you call it? Like a nap. And it'll tear easily one way. Like you can see, this tears nice and straight one way, but the other way, it's crooked. And that's, you know, if you want a nice straight line, sometimes it'll go against what you're writing. So this is what I do. I grab my goo, whatever goo I'm using, decide where I'm going to put that piece. I think I'm going to put it over here. And then you can just sort of put the goo down, put your thing on top of it, and you're just gluing on top of it too. So now you're encasing this in your painting. So it becomes part of the painting. I know a lot of people, or several artists that I know have used things where they use actually like dried plants and stuff like that. And people might have some concerns about that because they're not, the dried plants will change color and stuff like that. You know, that's kind of like that's just how paper or plants work, and that's how paper work. It will change colors and stuff like that. That's okay. But it's also more protected because it's now encased in this goo that you've put in here. So you can take things that you like a stamp, or see, I'm going to use the backs of the stamps because I don't really want pictures. The other thing you have to be careful about is if you are adding things out of like a book or something like that, you have to make sure that they don't look like they came out of that book. Because a lot of things have copyright, like Disney and cartoons and stuff like that. So if you're going to use things like that, you better not let it look like anything, especially if you're going to sell it. I mean, if it's for yourself and you're making your own artwork and you're just going to keep it for yourself, then you just do whatever you like. But if you're planning on selling your work, if you have pictures of a celebrity or somebody else, you better make sure you have permission to use it because you can get in trouble. We don't want that. So now, because this brush is pretty stiff, I'm able to push it, and it's quite flat. And I don't know how else to show it to you, but it's going quite flat onto the paper. And you know, the same thing. I mean, I'm being pretty dry. I'm not using tons of the goo. I'm just using a little bit, you know, and you might add like bits of paper. I have these little strips of paper, and it's amazing sometimes the stuff that I keep, and I'm thinking, why am I keeping this? So it looks really neat in a painting. You know, I was explaining earlier before we started that I'm actually trying to clean out my studio. I'm purging my studio a little bit. So I'm going through and I'm trying to be really critical to get rid of things. But, you know, quite often I have people say, oh, I'll come help you. That terrifies me because I feel like everyone would try and make me get rid of all the good junk I have. It's a hard thing for me. So anyway, so there, that little piece of paper. So like I'm just creating sort of like this mess of bits and pieces on there. And you know, I can work back into them again, and I can start to paint over top of them also, because I still have my paints with me here. And that's just sort of, it adds to the, sort of the layering that you can do. And now I'm working pretty flat because I'm just adding papers and stuff like that, but you can add other things. I found this really cool mesh. I think it came off of my oranges at Christmas. But it would add a little bit of texture, well, and a little bit of color if you left it at that orange, right? You could, you know, have a little bit of that on there. I also use my tape. This is tape that I would use for when I'm spray painting, because I do a lot of spray painting on pieces. So I end up with these beautiful pieces of tape, and they end up in a lot of my work. You'll see them all over the place because how gorgeous is that? Anyway, I'm going to show you how I organize some of this stuff. Because I like grabbing a whole bunch of weird and interesting things, I found these folios. They're pretty handy because I have just page protectors in them, and then I can pull out a page and there's papers and stuff that I might have in them. So this is painted papers of mine. There's some more of those little green fabric-y papers. Pull all sorts of things out. I have tissue paper, like little shapes of tissue paper. See, like this is all like garbagey stuff, but I mean, it can add to a painting or add to a composition, just, you know, these little bits of color. These are circles. I have a special cutter that I can cut circles with. So these show up in my artwork too, quite a bit. And this is a nice way for me just sort of to keep things organized a little bit. Here's a bunch of my rags when I'm cleaning my brushes. So sometimes I end up with just little bits. I've got tape in here and spool bits from the spools that I paint. Those are, oh boy, what do you call them? No, negatives. There you go. I forgot. My head's a little gone. So anyway, there's lots of things you can keep. I even have a sample here of my dad's handwriting. And I thought, oh, that'd be really cool to put in there. So you could take like old letters or just old things that someone who is dear to you has written and add them to a piece of artwork. And then they're in the artwork forever. So the one thing that I notice when I'm doing this kind of thing is that the gloss gel or the whatever goo I'm using is usually shinier than my paper. And I don't mind that too much because when I'm all done, I'm probably going to spray it with some sort of fixative just to keep everything flat. And it'll all be the same texture, whether it's shiny or matte or whatever. So even like this piece of fabric, I can just fix it in here. And now it's part of this painting. And if I go back, oh boy, I want to get some of this tissue in here too. Just gotta find the right spot. Right here. That pink. Not a big pink fan in my paintings.
So when we choose our painting that we're working with,
yeah,
should we be maybe picking one that's not so favorite, or?
That's right. Choose something that it's not your favorite, because then you can maybe make it your favorite. Maybe it becomes a favorite.
This was a disaster, and it just
I saw some really nice pieces from people. Sent me pictures.
I'm gonna tear them.
Thank you.
I got one. I started one that was really dark, and then I just couldn't. It just was driving me crazy, and so I ended up just painting sort of yellow over all of it.
Oh, that's nice.
I still just think it's kind of gruesome, but maybe it's gonna do something.
You just never know. So that's sort of where I'm at right now with, just doing that. And if I want to add, I don't know, some color or paint to it, adding paint to it after I've started to put stuff on. Now, it doesn't matter that my gesso or my glass gel is still a little bit wet. It's okay, because it's just going to add to the sort of the painterly feel. But if I start to sort of paint over it, now it's just sort of adding to that sort of layered feel, where it's now it's not just sitting on top of the painting. It's now inside that painting, because you're painting over it, and maybe it's not as bright as it was, and it's just sort of a whisper of the piece that you put in there. And as you can see, I have it also coming off my paper again. So I would use scissors, but I put them away just recently, so let's rip it. So I've painted this little bit at the bottom here just to make it not so bright, because I don't want the attention going to the edge of my painting, right? When I'm doing my painting, I want my attention to stay in the middle, so your attention doesn't run off your painting to the next painting that's in the show. So it's starting to look like it's almost like a little composition, right? It needs a lot more, but it's kind of nice to. So I'm just very lightly brushing that sort of that turquoise, that sparkly turquoise that I have over everything. And then I'll go and see what else I can find to stick on this thing. Like, oh. I have to get my scissors now, because I like to cut my tape. Reach. All right. Chloe's got something really long she's putting on her painting. What is that you had that was so long there? I just saw it in the camera.
Me?
Chloe. No. Oh, it's like it's a tape with hearts on it. That's nice. So I have a piece of my masking tape that has silver on it.
What would happen if I used white glue? I can't get my Mod Podge open.
Oh,
I'm stuck.
You could try white glue. It should dry clear. You could add a little bit of water to the white glue, maybe.
Okay.
The other thing you can do with the Mod Podge is take the Mod Podge on the corner of a table that you don't care about, whack it a good, and that might break the
that might break the seal. Okay.
Yeah. And that's usually what I do when I have paint that is shut tight.
Okay.
Give it a good whack.
Oh, it worked.
Yay!
Awesome. Yay! I was beginning to get a little.
Yeah. It's
Just
like behave.
Behave, exactly. Okay.
Are you a piece there or something? No.
It doesn't matter, Dada.
Why not? You're getting it all over the desk.
That's what art's all about.
See, Dada.
What you need to do is get her a big piece of coroplast, like what I have on my desk.
Where's it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
you can get those, and then
Oh, I'll show you.
Home Depot has them. Even Michael's has them.
There she is. I like to keep.
So one of the other things I think about when I'm doing a composition is odd numbers. Because when I'm putting my elements down, I want to make sure I have a nice selection of them. But when I have like an element like these stamps, I'm going to make sure I have at least, because I like that odd number is going to, it's a comfortable number to work with. 3 or 5. It's just it's a natural number. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's the rule of 3.
It's a design thing.
It is a design thing. It's like
3, 5,
designer,
7.
I know that, and it's like it's just part of me. So I got a couple more stamps on there. It's kind of nice to again take my little viewfinder and see what I'm looking at.
Question.
And it might be just something as simple as just adding a little bit more of this green stuff.
May I ask a question?
You sure can.
You had mentioned photographs, celebrities a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Do you think that if you were to, as example, turn your stamps over so you have an image, consider artificial images distracting to your artwork, or is that just kind of a personal that other people have?
Maybe I do feel that way. There are some larger pieces where I actually have the stamps turned where you can see the stamp. But usually those stamps where I reveal the face are usually a picture of the queen or somebody. It's one of those old stamps that might have a head that's like a really old stamp. But something like putting this in my piece doesn't go with the kind of artwork that I do. And it would, I mean, unless I was doing like a Christmas card or something like that, you know, this would bother me in my art as it is.
I just was curious your thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's probably why I do it. Is like I have these ones here. These are you know, the American stamps. I don't know what kind of glue they use or ink they use, but there's a certain way that you soak the stamps. Like I soak the stamps in boiling water to get them off the paper so I can put them in my collection. But look what it does. Like these stamps are just so faded and just ew. So I would be happy putting this one face up because you can't even tell what's on that stamp. It's a little abstract painting as it is. So that's probably why I don't use a lot of images anyway. Even when I'm painting, you know, if people say they see a horse in my painting, chances are I'm going to paint over it because I don't like that dictating my painting.
I still see your rabbit, and it looks like it's running now with that green tissue paper. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your imagery.
Yeah, I still see him there too. Yeah, now he's got longer legs. You know, I did this painting years ago, and I was just playing around with some paint and stuff like that. And everybody at the retreat, they were saying, "Oh, it looks like a little girl in a raincoat in the rain." And she's kind of got her head down, and I was like, oh, that's, and I could see it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to really work on that. Water. I had that painting for years and struggled trying to make it look sort of like a girl with in the rain with a raincoat. And I just covered it with gesso because I couldn't make her come out. And so I just let her go. Much to the shock and exclamation at the retreat, because they were all like, what are you doing? Like, she has to go. Oh, I forgot about the rabbit. Now I gotta work on the rabbit. Because I can see it now. Unless I turn it upside down, then what if I do it this way? Now it's not such a rabbit. Or this way. And it's definitely not a rabbit. Oh, here comes the tarp on the table for Chloe. So even if you're doing that, you know, you could take things and, you know, I'm basically working on this main piece right now. But remember, you still have a board. So here's my board that I painted last week, and it's just got that one coat of paint, which is not very exciting. But, you know, I could add a book page. You know, I had some really cool pages that I'd done. I don't know where they are. I'm going to go look. Yeah. See if I can scrounge them up. I think they're over here. Yeah.
Hey, birdie. Where are my scissors?
Oh, I didn't really find it though. But I found some other decorative papers. So, I mean, I could add interesting papers to this piece and then paint through it.
I cut up, you know, the abstract paper thing we were doing where we were making cards in our last art class.
Yeah.
I cut up some of the extra pieces. Some of those extra pieces.
Yeah. That's the great way to do it, right? Is they can be like these beautiful little bits, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put this, well, I don't know. I think I want more paint on this. So I'm gonna paint this some more. I do like this.
Ooh, kitty.
Like this color. It's just so, I don't know. Seems like a lot of pigment to me. My weight's seen better days though.
No, you can't put it there. This is the best place. You don't put stickers. We did. No. What if you have to change the end cap?
All right.
Then you gotta take the door off.
Okay, so now I've got like lots of color on here. Of course, now it's wet, so I don't want to add anything to it because I want to.
That's what it's like.
You know, that purple that I had under there is going to pretty much disappear because I've got so much paint on here now.
It's super hard. But it's like, you know what? I know
Do things like that, and then I can rub it off a little bit too. And
Exactly.
So I don't lose everything that was in this piece. I'm just sort of blending it a little bit more. I have a squeaky chair. I'd have to fix that. There. So now it's like a different base painting, but there's a little bit more painting on the paint on this now, just to give it more body. That first coat that I did last week was pretty thin. So now this has got like a really nice sort of feel to it. Yeah, set it aside. It'll be ready for next week. And I'm going to put that with it because I think that's going on there. Back to this one.
Mod Podge dries clear, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Is it looking a little unclear on your piece?
Oh, there it is.
No, it's okay. I just didn't want to leap in and like I've only really chosen one piece to put on here. So
yeah,
I've got all these things, but I don't know where they're going to go yet. And
well, and sometimes, you know, like for this one here, I'm not really planning much. I'm just quickly doing it. And I'm not too unhappy with it so far.
Yeah, I found this piece of newspaper.
Yep.
And it was something about movies, and I ripped it up so it says "A Terrible No Good 2021."
Awesome. That's a great idea.
And then
I mean, you can have words in there. I mean, I have a whole little envelope where I've taken magazines and I've cut letters out, sort of like ransom letters, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I did with it was then I took a piece of white tissue paper that has sparkles on it.
Yeah.
And Mod Podged it over top of that. So
nice.
So it sort of looked, so there's sparkles in it. It's a sparkly no good year.
A sparkly no good year. Well, you know, if you're going to have a no good year, you might as well have sparkles in it.
There might as well be sparkles.
Yeah.
That's right.
I feel like I've sort of stolen your, you know, horizontal across the lower section of this thing.
That's okay. And I'm sure I stole it from somebody else.
That's where it's starting.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's how art is, you know, and you mimic and you copy and you just make it your own.
Fortunately, I have a couple of these pieces from when we did your in-person class where we painted the book pages.
Yep.
And we cut them up.
Yep.
And so I have no idea what this says.
Yeah.
But it's got some bronzy color in it and it's going in. We'll see what happens.
Well, that works too. So what Leslie is talking about is one of the classes that I did, instead of just having the students, you know, clean their brushes on this, I had them clean it on book pages. And you can do that too, right? Where you take a book page and, you know, I'm just cleaning my brush on it and it becomes, now it's really going to curl on me. But eventually, you know, when I go to clean my brush on the next one, it's going to add to it. I have a whole stack of them. I don't know if I've shown you guys my cards that I do. I don't have any down here, but this is the stack that I keep next to my paper cutter.
Oh, yeah.
And next to my sink. So when I'm doing something like spray painting, I just grab this piece of paper and then I use it, or I clean my brush on it. So I have stacks of all this sort of paper that I clean my brush on. And eventually when they get full, I don't have a lot of full ones here, I cut them up. under here, I have some full ones. Like this is something that I've cleaned my brushes on. I've cleaned my brushes. I've done spray painting with. This one here, same thing. Looks like I've used some stamps and stuff like that. It just becomes this big mess of stuff. But as soon as I do that, then what I do is I go through and I chop them all up, and they all become little interesting pieces of color. Oh boy, I don't even know if I can get to them. Sorry, I've been purging my studio, so it's a disaster in here. As I go searching through my studio, you'll just have to bear with me. Okay. All right. So this is what I end up with.
Oh my.
So these are all cut to the size that I make my cards, and I sell my hand painted cards. I sell them for $12 each, and I mount these on cardstock and sell them. And this is what they are. These are my cleaning pages, and I just keep them in a pile, and then sometimes I'll just work on them, and I look through them, and when they're ready to become a painting or a little card, then they're ready. A lot of these ones aren't ready. I haven't even done anything on them anymore. But like this one, you can see I've worked back in with a blue.
You go, Karen. You go.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For some of her cards.
And then
Karen.
Is that my sister?
Yeah, I've been here for a while.
I didn't even know you were there. Hey, Jody.
I was, yeah.
It's my
I
sister.
had myself muted. Yeah. But here's some of your cards, Karen.
Oh, just a minute. I don't know if Bill?
Yes.
Jody's online and she's showing some of my cards, but nobody can see them because everybody's looking at me.
It's kind of hard to jump around.
It's hard to jump around. Everybody's looking at my hands, I think. I don't know if they can see you. So I didn't even know you were there. So that's cool. So
okay, anyway, I can see other people.
I can only see some of the people. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I can only see 6 people at a time. So anyway, but you can see, like, even in this card, you know, I've added my tape to it and stuff like that. And eventually they become these hand painted cards that I sell. And yeah, my sister has a bunch that she's
trying to sell.
She sells at her bread and breakfast.
Yeah, bed and breakfast.
Bread and breakfast. Anyway, so it is a little bit crazy because I have a billion of these. But you know, when I'm sitting at an art show, you know, sometimes if sometimes I'll just take them with me and I can sit there and I can just work through them. And I end up with all these little. But in the meantime, yeah, I just work on one little composition. I'm trying anyway. I keep covering up my thing. Well, now I'm all nervous because my sister's here and she's the artist.
No, we're both artists. Just for...
Anyway, sort of a, you know, it's starting to come to life, this little composition. I'm not sure what I'm going to do on it next, but you know, sometimes I like adding circles, which is kind of my thing.
The hardest part seems to be gluing the first thing, just like putting the first little paint on the page.
That's a Leslie thing.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just gotta hold your breath and do it.
Pretty much.
Do it, and then you're committed, right? It's like even when we, you know, last week when we were taking the pieces and we were cutting them and changing them, right? It sort of, it dictates what you have to do. I'm not gonna get that guy off. Oh my goodness. I was so clever putting all these school things on plastic.
I've got these watercolor pencils.
You can use watercolor pencils.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying them out, see what happens.
That's nice. Oh, I can see Jody now. So I like doing circles. So again, you know, so this is the top of a spool, like a thread spool, but I'm probably not going to show this part of it. I'm just going to turn it over, and it's maybe because I don't want to show the picture on the back side, or the code, or that it's from Germany or whatever. So I'm just going to put it down, but it's hard because it's sticky on this side too. So there, now I have my circle. I'm happy. Whew. Oof. And then I'm gonna put that little bit of that blue on it because I don't want it to be too bright. So, because I want it in the painting, not. I just got blue on my mat. Oh, I guess that's what it's for now. Has anybody got anything they want to show? Oh, well, not everybody can see it, but I can see some of it.
Well, I don't know if I want to, whoops.
Oops.
I don't know if I want to add any more to that.
You got lots in there. Now, what is your focal point?
Good question.
It looks almost like the pink could be a focal point.
On the bottom, yes.
Yeah, because it's quite like it's catching my eye.
Yes.
But then you also have a yellow dot up in the upper right-hand side too, that you could create more of a focus on that.
More of a focus on that, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try that.
Because I'm taking mine and I'm moving. I mean, I was making this sort of a focal point, but now I'm trying to pull the focal point over here to this circle. And so I'm adding more pieces over there just to do that.
Yeah, I think mine turned out to be just, I think they're always too busy. Like, I just don't know where to stop. I have a hard time.
And, you know, one of the things that I had some ladies, when I was doing a lot of artwork and I was doing a lot of crazy sort of abstract stuff earlier on, I had two of my dear friends, and they came up to me and it was like they had a secret they were hiding behind their back. And they said, we just wanted to show you this. And they showed me a color wheel by Bob Barrage. And they said, we really think that your art needs to have some quiet spaces. So I understood that. So you'll see, this is quiet space for me. There's still some color mixing and stuff like that. So then, you know, it's sort of getting that balance between what is quiet space and what is the busy space, and what can I make, and how can I draw the eye into that busy space and not make it too busy, but make it so that you want to make it so that your eye looks at your focal point and then might look at some of the other elements in your piece, and then it can rest, and then it can come back to that focal point. And that's sort of the journey around your artwork that you want the eye to make. If that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
See, I did 3 again. That's what I do, is 3. And as I'm working through this, you know, when you're adding elements to your piece, you might start with larger elements and then slowly work down to smaller and smaller until you're like, okay, this is completed, because you don't want to add any more big elements to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really does help me, you know, seeing it on the camera. It's really kind of a neat way to look at it.
I finished this one.
You did. Well, you put all your stuff in a one focal area. Look at that. That's awesome.
And there's little pictures of my cats right here.
Well, I guess you have permission to use those.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Just some of these paints are kind of old. Oh, there we go. Got some red. So what am I going to talk about next week? I don't know. Maybe a little bit about what's going on next week. What are we going to do next week? What's in my plan? Okay, so next week, what I wanted to talk about was stencils.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you guys how I make stencils. And I don't expect you to buy spray paint because I will demo how I do some of my spray paint. But I don't expect you guys to buy that. We can try some stencils with a brush or like a sponge or something like that too. But I'm going to show you how I cut my stencils. And I use like a piece of plastic, like overhead projector plastic. And I quite often carve my stencils that way. Now you can make stencils out of paper or whatever you want to. So that's sort of what I was thinking of, was stenciling and that kind of thing next week, and show you my spray paint stuff. And you know, not just stencils, because like this could be a stencil, right? If I laid this down and then spray painted it, it would leave an interesting pattern on my piece, right? So it doesn't have to be a stencil that you make. You can find all sorts of interesting things that you can spray paint through. Like there's so many things. It's like everything I look at, it's like, how can I make that into an art tool? So.
Okay, lack of creativity. How's that for my yellow focal point?
I like it. Yeah, you've made it into a flower. Yeah, I like it actually. It does draw the eye, so that is a definite focal point for you there. And Jody, what are you working on?
Oh,
are you doing this, or are you doing something else?
I'm doing something else.
You're just listening in?
Well, because I just came out of the studio, so like, you know, I'm doing my
so my
stuff
sister
there.
does pottery, and you can see all of her pots behind her. Look at that.
Yeah.
But she's in Niagara on the Lake, so it's really hard for me to get her pots.
Yeah, I have to bring them to you. No, you know what? I'm doing my fetish of cutting out letters.
Oh, yeah. Jody does the. I was talking earlier and saying that you could take like magazine letters and cut them off, and they're like ransom letters that you can put in your piece. Jody does that all the time.
I just cut out letters. I have this
thing
option with text.
Yeah,
and it'll show up in some work at some point. But
yes, I actually have some of Jody's little sculptures, and she puts words in them, like art.
That's my big one.
She says art.
Yeah. So I know, Karen, I wasn't doing the painting today, but I might next week. That's all.
Okay, that's all right. I just wondered if you had something to show.
Nope. No, I do want to do some prints actually, like we did together in this month. So,
well, I would like to actually work on after in February. I was thinking we could look at maybe doing some foam stamps, and I had told everybody to start saving the bottoms of your meat trays or takeout trays. That kind of foam, and then we'll have a foam stamp night.
Yeah,
that would be fun. So I know we've had fun with that in some of the classes that I've done. So, oh, there,
good one.
I just got a chunk of paint on there that I just picked off, and now I have a white spot. Better cover that up. There we go. Uh-oh, I think that rabbit's gone.
Quite possibly.
I don't know. Yeah, I think he's gone. Sorry, Spencer.
Gone the rabbit.
I can tell you what I see now if you want.
Oh no, what do you see now?
I see a pizza slicer chasing an FTD florist.
Yeah, I see that pizza slicer. Mm-hmm.
I can't quite picture the florist though.
I think yeah,
holding
right here,
balloons.
right?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The legs and the body holding a bunch of balloons or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, Karen, I played along after the class last week, so that was my effort.
Oh, I gotta see it.
Show it again. I can't see.
Bill, can I see it? Bill, can you make it so I can see it?
I played along afterwards.
You know what? I'm gonna wrap it up, and then I want people to do their show and tell. So I'm gonna switch it so that it's gonna be on gallery so we can see each other. So anyway, so that's about all I'm gonna do tonight. Anyway, next week we're gonna be doing the spray paint, so the stencils and stuff like that. So I'll have that supply list up for you in the next couple of days. We are gonna be cutting some things, and I like to use a knife when I'm cutting, but it's really up to you what you want to use. And art, you know, you can bring some interesting things to spray through or to daub through if you're going to use a sponge or something like that. Okay, so now I've got the gallery view up. Everybody show me the stuff that they're working on. Spencer, I want to see what you got. We do our best.
I didn't play this week, but I played last week.
So you did last week's. That looks really good. I love that. Spencer,
that's my last week's effort.
Oh, Jody's showing one of my cards. Look at the googly eyes.
That's what I've done with my canvas.
Oh, that's your book page there?
This is my canvas.
And that's your canvas.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Now is
your best.
This is my
Is that your sketchbook or is that a Yeah, she's got to turn her speaker on.
Yeah, it's my mixed media book.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that's great.
I have issues with no focal point and putting way too much on a page and never stopping with a million layers for some reason. Okay.
I think, wow, look at all those Disney characters. Oh my goodness.
Oh, ignore the Disney characters. That's my tabletop. It's
that's your tabletop. I was like, okay.
It's an old plastic shower curtain.
Oh yeah,
and
that works.
My table where I grow my plants.
Yeah.
So again, I'm trying to figure out. I'm keeping this sort of my focal area. It's not all glued is the problem. I've only gotten a few things glued down because I don't know. Am I in the right direction? Like, I think
Yeah,
that's
I know.
what
Don't
So-
overthink it, Leslie. Just let it go. And
Just
you know what? If
enjoy
it
it.
works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Look at that flower. Nice.
As out of tissue paper.
That's great.
Nice.
I have tissue paper like.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's so great.
Yeah.
But it's bumpy because it's over one of those pieces of bookmark and book thing we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I do have a way of flattening these things out, and I'll show you.
That's in the paid course.
That's in the paid course.
Okay for that one.
I'll tell you about it, but you.
But it's going to cost you.
Yeah. So I have a couple of presses that I use, but I'll show you. I can show you guys how I made my press, and if you want to make your own, it's one of my best tools. I actually have 3 presses now that I use for pressing my cards and everything. They're really good. And
yes, I have press envy. There, Karen.
You have press envy.
I know I have a couple of bolts I'll give you, and you can have those, and then you can make your own press.
I got.
Although I have not only do I have the presses that I made, but I also have a crimping press, which is it's one of those big old fashioned metal ones that have the wheel on top.
Ooh.
That's the one I'm gonna. Yeah.
That's what Jody would be envying. Yeah, because my art teacher gave it to me from high school. It's awesome, like super flat. Anyway, so all right. Well, you guys have a great week. I'll have my list up. If you need any supplies, go on to Amazon. You can use my link. That would be really helpful. And otherwise, tell some people if you think this is fun and you think other people would have fun doing it, just, you know, we'll have lots of fun together. So it's all good.
All righty.
Okay.
Super. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for joining in. And I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you.